Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you another video. All right, so after the Laker game yesterday, ESPN, NBA.com, they had the stats wrong, man. And to be honest with you, I was wrong about a lot because of it. First of all, D'Lo did not have 14 assists; he had 17 assists, and that may have changed the entire conversation that I had in my breakdown video after the Utah Jazz game. Because when you look at 14 assists, it's like that's amazing. When you look at 17 assists, that's his career high. So it's like I would have had an entirely different vibe about that game had those stats been correct. Also, it was said that Rui Hachimura had 36 points. ESPN was showing us he had 33 points. And that changes a lot because since Shaq and Kobe, no one has had 35 points as a duo. Him and AD did last night. So for me, that was a big deal. I would have loved to have been able to say that. Now, I think I did tell you guys he had 36 points. I think I did tell y'all that. But it was showing me he had 33, so I didn't bring it up because I wasn't sure. And God knows how many other stats that they had wrong at the end of that game. And the funny thing was, for me, was I waited a little longer than I normally do to do my video because I had somebody outside my window speaking pretty loud. And if you listen to that video, you probably still hear him a little bit, although he was near the end of his conversation. But the point was, I waited long enough for the stats to be refreshed, and they just never did. So I just want to come in and get that right because it really did change the way I was looking at the game. I mean, I think I still would have given the game ball to Rui, to be honest with you, just because I wanted to give him player of the game for which I thought he had never received. I don't think I remember giving him player of the game for anything, or giving him the game ball rather. But, you know, I told you I thought Anthony Davis probably deserved it. D'Lo deserved it too. 17 assists. I think Austin Reeves had 24, 27 points, something like that. I don't think I put enough of an emphasis on how well he played. Our team really played well in that second half, man. The first half, I thought they did some good things. Of course, Rui was already on fire. But the second half, we really pulled away. And I just don't think I was able to put the emphasis on it that I otherwise wanted to because I didn't have the right stats. It just was what it was. That didn't happen very often. But it was what it was. So I just want to come back here and give y'all a different point of view on that particular game. Because at the end of the day, our guys played a little better than we were told. Especially D'Lo. It's a big difference between 14 assists and 17. It really is. And so that's what I wanted to tell y'all, man. I hate the fact the All-Star game is right now, to be honest with you. I really hate that. And the reason why is because I just think this team is playing so well that you don't really want this type of a break. The rest could help get guys healthy, bring us back into shape. But what this team has been used to is the fact that games have been basically every other day. And throughout the course of us really winning, that's what you've been seeing a whole lot of. Is guys having only 1 day's break in between basketball games for like a whole month straight. That type of consistency, I think, was to the betterment of my basketball team. And now we're going to have a whole week off. Guys get to get rusty. Guys get to go off and hopefully take care of themselves, but likely eat a couple good meals, maybe not work out as much, go off to Tahiti or wherever they want to go with their loved ones. If they're not going to go to Indy for the All-Star game, drink a couple beers, hopefully not getting in any trouble. But the point is, and although it's a level playing field because every team has that going on, not every team is playing as well as we are right now. Having struggled as long as we did before playing this well, this consistently, finally, particularly on the road. And then we come back to a tough schedule, so it's like, I'm not in love with that. I'm not in love with the prolonged consistency followed by a long break. Not in love with that. And I do think that the fact that this team played every other game, as I probably already said, is a big contributor to why they were able to be successful every other day. I think it had a big to do with that, man. I just believe in rhythmic consistency, pulsing, you know, what's the word? Repetition and schedule. Guys' bodies get used to something and it's like, all right, every day I got to do the same thing because I know we play 7:30 a day from now. So my rest is going to be this. It's going to be that. When you have inconsistent rest patterns, inconsistent off days, I don't think you get that same dynamic. I don't believe so. So that's what's on my mind. I think when you talk about Spencer Dinwiddie and his acquisition, I just think he gives us a much more of a fighting chance to and I said this yesterday too, have much better fast break opportunities when Bron is not out there. You expect to win certain games when Bron ain't out there, but when you insert Spencer Dinwiddie's talent, you really expect to have some of the dynamic that Bron provides in playmaking and just the overall stability in a fast-paced, fast-break situation. And that's what we're lacking sometimes when Bron isn't out there. D'Lo ain't really a fast-paced pusher. Austin can be, but he's not always going to be on the floor in that situation. You'd rather have him and someone else. Taurean is definitely not. You want that ball handler who's getting other people the ball to be in that fast break so that guys who finish strong like Rui Hachimura, so that guys like Austin Reeves can finish properly in the fast break. You want that. You know what I mean? So I think Spencer Dinwiddie gives us a ball handler that allows us to do that. And plus, you really don't have to worry as much about injuries with your guards, for which we've had problems with all year. You don't have to worry about injuries as much with, or not injuries, but foul trouble with players, because you have such a high-level, talented player coming in to fulfill more playing time for your basketball team. And for me, that's just really what it is. I think we're looking great with the acquisition of Spencer Dinwiddie on the defensive side of the ball. He's made some big plays in that way. I thought his shot selection was here and there. Not really in love with the shot selection, but I think when you learn a player's style, you realize what they've been practicing may be stuff that other guys, if they tried it, ain't gonna do no good at. And I just think we got to learn what his game package is. His layup package is his step back stuff. We just don't know him like that. So for all I know, the stuff that we think is a bad shot for so-and-so may be his rhythm shot. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So I'm really excited about what I'm seeing from Spencer, man. I like what he's bringing to our team. It's an entirely different flavor. The ball falls differently when he shoots it than anybody else on our squad. You just know you have a different player with a different DNA. And I think that dynamic is really beneficial to our team, especially given the fact that we haven't lost anything. When you just bring him in as a ball handler who can get his own, who can stretch the floor, who can get to the line, make his shots, play a little defense, keep up with players defensively. You just love that energy that he brings to the table inherently just from being a natural-born point guard with big size. Put him next to a guy he's played with like Austin Reeves. Put him next to a guy he's played with like Taurean Prince. Put him next to another guy he's played with, Christian Wood. And from what I understand, he had the Rui Hachimura with him also in Washington. These are the type of things, it's like, yo, he knows half of the team. So he don't have to really get a feel for some of these guys because of that. I really like that. I like the acquisition of Spencer Dinwiddie. I don't think it really matters to put an emphasis on how much he's making, because at the end of the day, he's coming in post-acquisition ability. I mean, I guess you can make you can waive somebody and pick up somebody else, but him taking up only 1.5 of your cap doesn't hit the same as if he were to do it in the offseason when you're still trying to put together your roster. So that's not really a big factor, but you do like the fact that he's willing to play for less just in general if you're Jeanie Buss. I don't think that really affects what we're looking at as fans, though. But all in all, I mean, I love the idea of having multiple ball handlers, especially in a situation where you have a coach that wants to run 3-guard lineups. You want the guards to all three of them be over 6'4", 6'5", ability to make plays for themselves, not be deficient on the defensive end. I really love what he's doing, and so we just got to continue to acclimate him, get him acclimated to what we're doing. He seems to be comfortable coming off of the bench, so that's very helpful. And, you know, just in general, you just want a player like that who's played with half of the team, who knows what is expected of him, and he's going to come in with a veteran's mentality. 10 years into the game, ready to win, having not played for many winning teams, but still having enough playoff experience to where he's been with Dallas in the Western Conference Finals. You just love what that really means for your team. And you couple that with the idea that we have Anthony Davis and LeBron James who can be recipients of passes that he makes, and then he can make plays for guys who are also looking to play make, so they don't have to always be in charge of running the break. As I've already said, you just love that dynamic in general for your basketball floor. He has some length on him. I love it, man. I think Spencer Dinwiddie can be a difference maker. I ain't going to say a needle mover because that implies that you can win a championship outright for just bringing him in. But I can say a difference maker in the sense that he gives us so much more versatility. He allows for us to not have to have foul trouble so much be on our minds with our guards, for which are not great defensive guards, so they're going to, in theory, foul more. It allows for guys like Jalen Hood-Schifino to not have big roles. You don't need him to have a huge role so soon if somebody else gets hurt. You don't have to rush guys back. And in this situation, you didn't even need to play Bron to kind of get the scoring necessary to keep going. And you know, with our players finding ways of scoring and finding this new identity with our starting lineup, when you have someone who makes plays come into that situation, now when you sit one of those starters and you bring him in, he's elevating the offensive talent of those players by creating space with his ability and making plays for others for which their scoring should be even better. So that's why I'm really excited about Spencer Dinwiddie. You sub him in for Taurean Prince and move Austin to the 3, or sub him in for Austin Reeves, and you still have that ability to get better. He's going to make players better. I think that's the dynamic that OKC has when you consider they have so many playmakers in their lineup. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, J-Dub, Cason Wallace, Josh Giddey. All of these guys are natural-born playmakers. So when anytime anyone is on the floor around them, they're going to elevate them. They're going to make it so that they're getting their shots in their spots, easy buckets, making plays off one another, creating space for one another. That's the dynamic that I think makes OKC so dangerous. Even though everybody says OKC is a very small team, they play bigger because they have players like Giddey who can rebound the ball at a certain height, play make and run the fast break, get the ball to J-Dub who has playmaking skills. They are an underrated basketball team. And I don't think that the Lakers didn't just find themselves with a similar dynamic by picking up this player and adding him to what we already had. So that's what I want to say, man. I just really, really like the acquisition. I think that he's a deadly enough scorer, especially next to D'Lo, which has already been proven in Brooklyn, where he and D'Lo were able to have fantastic years together. He averaged 20 points next to D'Lo. D'Lo was an all-star next to him in the starting lineup. So, like, when you bring that type of dynamic to the team and you realize that they may have had some to do with one another having their career best years, you got to understand just what that dynamic can be recreated now that they've found themselves in LA next to a LeBron James and AD, for which they definitely didn't have in Brooklyn. So, I don't know, man. I'm not going to sit here and say the Lakers are my favorite to win the championship, but what I will say is sometimes it doesn't take a whole lot to make a team a lot better when you have that high of superstar talent already in place. With synergy of having played with one another and won a championship with one another for several years. And it's not like we just put Bron and AD together. They know each other very, very well on the basketball court. So when you bring them a playmaker like this and you keep the guys you already had, it can make you extremely deadly scoring the basketball. And that's really where we found ourselves deficient in the first half of the season before finding the synergy with the starting 5 that we now have in place that all scores and all create space and all that stuff we all talk about. So for me, as a Laker fan, truthfully, I could not be more pleased with having not made a trade than to have this be the outcome. Where we get a guy like Spencer Dinwiddie, who's likely worth 7-8 times this, maybe even more, come in and just bring what it is he brings to the table outright. Now, the concern that I have, and I think most of you guys probably do too, is when we get all our guards back, how are we going to make sense of all of them? How do we get Cam Reddish to be his best? I personally think Cam Reddish just plays the 3 in this situation. You don't even ask him to be a 2 anymore. That's how you find solutions for that, and you just cut back from Taurean's minutes. That should be very easy. It won't be because Coach loves playing Taurean, but that's the solution right there. You put him at the 3, and you don't think too much about it. Backup 3 role, easy. And with Cam Reddish, what I really want him to do is just continue when he gets back to have plays that have him going toward the basket, because he really does have great footwork, Euro stepping and stuff like that. He finishes well with both hands, scoop shots, layups, and stuff like that. That's where he really helps us offensively. Once you start asking him to stay behind the line and shoot threes and space the floor, I don't think he's at his best. What you really want to do, though, is try to limit needs for him to have to space the floor. You want him to be able to be on the floor with the shooters that you have. Put him on the floor with Taurean. Put him on the floor with Austin. Put him on the floor with D'Lo. and some combination of all of those guys so that he is the only guy who can't space the floor. No different than Vanderbilt. I don't really need him on the floor with Vanderbilt at all unless Austin, Rui, and D'Lo are on the floor with him. Torian as well with Vanderbilt. That's what I want. Shooters around Vanderbilt, shooters around Cam Reddish. If we have that, the notion that Cam Reddish should ever be asked to space the floor or will ever be a problem for the offense in not being able to space the floor should be negated. You should not have that problem. It means he has to be in second unit situations. I don't need him on the floor with Bron and AD too much. But in the second unit, I still think Cam Reddish can be an asset. Now the question is, who do you move out of the rotation? Now, me personally, I'm going to tell y'all the truth. As much as I love consistency in schedule and as much as I love consistency with what we do, I'm starting to wonder if the word and the concept of rotations really serve us best. Because I think basketball is so situational and so rhythmic to where if I have set goals for who I want to play and win, I may end up betraying what it is that'll best counter what's coming at me. I think the concepts of rotations is traditional and it is proven to work in a lot of situations, so I don't want to just throw the whole concept away. But what I'm telling you is I want to be a lot more fluid with who I'm playing as it pertains to what it is that I think is coming at me versus what it is that I think just is set as a goal. It's just a basketball concept that I think needs to evolve. Removing Max Christie from rotation does not benefit me. So the idea of having rotations betrays that in the sense that I don't have enough playing time to play everybody that I'm set to play. But if I become more creative, and that's a dangerous thing when we're talking about Darvin Ham, but if you become more responsibly creative with the combinations of players that you use, you can still find time for everybody. You don't have to remove anybody from rotation because rotation is a concept that needs to be evolved from. And that's something I've been thinking about for the last couple of days. It's like, so you trying to tell me I don't get to play Max Christie for any of his strengths and weaknesses, or I don't get to play Cam Reddish for any of his strengths and weaknesses, or I don't get to play Gabe Vincent for any of his strengths and weaknesses because I brought in Dinwiddie and got to play Austin and got to play D'Lo? Hell no. Because I know I'm going to need certain situations. I'm going to need what Max brings to the table. I know in certain situations I'm going to want Cam and what he brings to the table. Maybe those same situations don't need Torian as much. Maybe those situations may need Torian with him, and maybe I don't need Bron as much. And so it's like, the idea of these consistent rotations is very simplistic for a coach to keep up with, but ultimately we need to become more fluid and more advanced in how we are putting players on a basketball floor so that you can have more of what you need at any given moment. And that's that. Being so set and locked into rotations, I think I'm starting to identify it being a primitive practice. That's what I'm starting to identify. It's a primitive practice. I can find circumstances where I put Cam in the game, Austin in the game, Max in the game, and have to line up best for what it is that's coming at me or to take advantage of what it is that I ultimately want to exploit. Max Christie's too good of a perimeter defensive player, in my opinion, to remove from the equation entirely just because you can't find time for him in your rotation. That ain't how I do it. That ain't how I do it. I don't need rotations. I just need to have concepts and an identification of what it is that's coming at me versus what it is I want to exploit. And then I use the combination of players that work for me in that way. And that's why consistent practice is so important, because it allows you to experiment with more of that stuff instead of using real game time to experiment with that stuff, for which we did in the first half of the season. I think that is a flawed way of moving as a basketball team. I don't want my team to use real games as practice. I want practice to be practice and real game to be the real game. Because every game matters, especially when you're talking about going against Western Conference teams and you're a Western Conference team yourself. You don't know what you're going to see in the playoffs. You want to win these in-season matchups. These in-season series, rather. You want to win those. It could be the difference between having home court advantage and not. And if you undermine home court advantage, you may be underestimating how much of an advantage it truly is. And how much better it is for travel, especially if you're winning the series of it. So for me, it's like, personally, my basketball IQ is evolving, and my ideas and philosophies about basketball are evolving. And when it comes to the NBA, especially when you're considering the 82-game schedule, I don't need set rotations while the same 5 guys are never, ever playing. So you end up wearing down the top guys, the 7, 8 guys that you're using, and then you're asking those 5 guys who have been cold, never getting off the bench, to now take on big roles in situations where your team's hurt. One of the reasons why we're getting so much out of our guys is because we had those injury issues early. So it forced Darvin Ham to play people and develop Max a little more. It forced us to throw guys like Cam in a little more to learn what they can do, because we didn't have the same 7 dudes over and over again to go to. And then you end up having them lose value on your team, them back of the bench guys. When you finally do put them in, they're not ready to go. They're not in shape. They don't have confidence. They're not in rhythm. All these different things. It's like, yo, that's why I don't believe in rotations as well. Because it allows for me to develop more of my team and get more of an opportunity for guys to see real playing time against real competition. You only want to put these last 5 guys in when you're up by 30 or down by 30. And they're going up against the weakest guys every time they play. Nah, fam. Especially with young players, you got to get them in there against the big guys so they can get cooked. I want my guy to get crossed over by James Harden. I want early so that they can learn the rhythm of players like that and gain confidence from ultimately the repetition of playing against higher level talent. I don't need them playing against the other team's worst guys every night, or rather once every 2 weeks, because that's the only time when you have games that spread out. That's not best for our basketball development. Not at all. I thank God for a G League, but like, again, high level talent. So that's really what's on my mind, man. I've been thinking about that for a couple of days now. I just want to see my team go up against, use more of itself, because you can find ways to do so if you just spread out your way of thinking in regards to what it is that you're doing. If you want to keep things simple, then rotations is always the way to go. But if you really want to strategize, then you got to use more combinations of players. And the only way you're going to be able to make those players used to playing with one another is if you run that stuff in practice by scheduling more practices. We talk about this all the time. The NBA don't practice enough. So that's what the concepts are, man. That's what's on my mind, man. I hope everybody's enjoying their day. Happy Valentine's Day, even though that was yesterday. And today is a new day, and I hope everybody's thinking good, man. We have All-Star game coming up. I don't know how much of that I will actually cover. This year, I'm not really into the All-Star game. I'm a little annoyed by it, as I was telling y'all earlier. I just don't want it to happen right now. My team's in a good rhythm. I don't want that to be broken by some gimmicky game that ain't going to have no defense in it. And then the risk of players getting hurt in the All-Star game could derail your entire season. The older I get, the less enthused I am with the concept of an All-Star game. I'm just not enthused by it. I like it for the players getting what it is that they're supposed to get in terms of accolades and being respected as players who are all-stars. But the idea that they have to continue to play a game that's only going to be competitive at the end of the game. Well, if a guy busts an Achilles in a game like that, I don't care for it. I don't sit here telling you guys that I'm not going to watch it, or that I haven't enjoyed All-Star games at times in the past. I really have. But I've also seen guys get hurt in All-Star games. And with my player being 39 years of age and my other guy, Anthony Davis, being on such a good run, staying healthy, I don't want him playing any extra basketball. Either one of them. I really don't. And in that same breath, I don't want them not playing basketball so that they'd have 2 weeks off for which they don't even run at all. I don't want that either. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, this don't really vibe with my preference for how the NBA should be strategized when you have a win now timeline right now. I don't want my players playing this game, and I don't want them to stop playing with the team that they're running with either. I don't want an All-Star break. Now, the rest in between the season is serious. That needs to be done. That's good for the body. But I don't know, man. It has some negative things attached to it that the more I think about it, the less I like it. It was fun when I was a kid, but not now for some reason. I'm not enthused. But I hope everybody's healthy. I hope they put on a great show. It is good for the environment of these players and the morale of these players to be around other high-level stars. The camaraderie and all of that is great. Synergy and getting to know certain guys, and you can start dreaming about teaming up with people later on. This is when you do it, so all of that's great. So it does have a lot of pluses to it. But I'm trying to win a championship, man. You know what I'm saying? Literally, I'm a Laker fan, wants to win a championship. And I feel like the All-Star break is almost a deterrent to where we're at in our schedule right now. So that's pretty much where I'm at, man. I hope everybody's enjoying themselves. Salute the Kobe minute, even though it just passed. You know what I mean? That's what's on my mind. Just wanted to give y'all a little NBA update, Laker update, and now I'm gonna go take care of some business that I gotta do. So, BDL44, I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.